Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
All right, welcome back to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. You got to be intelligent if you're coming back to this podcast week after week. I hope you're gaining intelligence, actually more than that, wisdom. We're all about helping you become the healthiest version of yourself. It's the art of becoming to where you can lead yourself well and then lead all those around you, your team, your family, those in your sphere of influence. So welcome back, listeners. So grateful to have you here. I'm picking up in this series of leadership that works, and we're going to be jumping into the concept of capacity. However, if you've missed some of our past episodes, we have explored relationships, communication, alignment, and our last episode was on execution, getting things done. And so we're going to get into a concept that maybe goes a little bit unnoticed until it's too late, and that is capacity. All of us have a finite amount of capacity tied to all these other areas that we're looking at. And so I want to, open this idea, this understanding of what is capacity. This is the moment you realize you're working harder and you're not getting further unless you're building this engine at the same time. What we're trying to do here is help you get clearer on what your current capacity is and how could that change given a number of circumstances. We're going to break it down here on the episode. So come along. Here we go. First, we got to define it. There's lots of terms that are being thrown around. So I'm going to help you today break it down what I call capacity. And one of the things that I look at, there's a great book, probably heard of it, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That book talks about a concept about production and production capability or capacity, if you will. And so, we all want to produce more, but it's not just solely production. So we talked about this in the last episode, execution, like what are we getting, the results? How are you doing this? Output, success metrics, these are all production. And production capacity is the overall health of the system, the person, the culture. Many leaders, individuals, I'll say, break it down to even myself, we try to increase production. Let's put our foot on the pedal, press through, let's get production up through the roof, right? While ignoring our production ability. And so we're really hard to execute and produce, don't look at a healthy system. And so it works until it doesn't work. How many of you, raise your hand, or as you're listening to this, know like, man, I was really pushed for production, but it was no consideration really to the production capacity, capability. There's think of it as a teeter-totter. You can't push more one than the other. You want to get them, in alignment. And this is where we have burnt out leaders, overworked team, whether it's admin or technical, it doesn't really matter, either side of the house, in my experience. And things look productive until that engine's. And I find oftentimes business owners are really pressing on that. Unfortunately, they build a system that sometimes is very finely tuned, and it's great until it falls into the ditch, it crashes. Then it goes from high capacity to no or very little capacity. We don't want to be having wild swings. That's not good for anybody. But we want to make sure we make incremental, sustainable change. So how do we know that we might be struggling area of capacity, ability to handle all of the production, all the things that we want to do, all the things we want to execute on. About in the last episode. Well, are you having turnover as a business owner? Are you having people leave your organization? Is there high turnover? Look at your retention rate. Have you looked at it in a while? How long are people staying with you? Or are they kind of filtering through, every 6 months, a year, whatever that case might be? Look at that and get some benchmarking. There's benchmarking for different industries. What does that look like for your industry, your market sector, for retaining individuals? Now, some of them naturally have high turnover depending on where you're at. However, in my experience in professional services, particularly in the AEC industry, construction, environmental, such, those usually are long-lived, can be. And that's what sustains a practice, a firm, makes it very desirable if you're ever going to sell that company. Look, are you in the constant urgent category? Urgent and important. We talked about this in the past of Eisenhower Matrix, if you haven't looked at that. But if you're always in urgency, is it always like firefighting, right? We're always trying to put out things because we have no margin for adjustment. Are we making repeated mistakes? Remember, I talked about this in past episodes, redoing. Anytime you put the word do we have to redo something? Do we have to look at this again? This is happening. We didn't catch it. We didn't fix it before. It came up again. This is very costly. Costly in your people, costly in your time, your clients. If we're seeing repeated mistakes, and then ultimately, are we continually having missed deadlines? I hate to see when you have companies that are stressed and continually are missing deadlines, overly stacking the production to the point where it's not feasible. And you have employees that are just discouraged because they're feeling, man, I just cannot win. Every time I just missing the mark. I don't understand. I don't know where to turn. There's just so many things put on me. So I want you as a leader, whether you're the business owner or you're managing a team, took a real hard look at these things and ask yourself, what am I doing? How am I contributing? High turnover, perhaps always in urgency mode. Everything's an emergency. Urgent tasks, repeated mistakes, missed deadlines. But when you're always on your heels, you're not building capacity. You're in survival mode. And that is not a way to live. You can do that for a short period of time, but just think about that. That's not a way we can stay sustainably. And so, I've seen this, unfortunately, too many times that I can account for. And I've seen it in all of those things. Turnover, constant urgency, repeated mistakes, missed deadlines. Missed deadlines is definitely the big one. I feel really can affect the overall team morale. You're like, oh my goodness, it's like cascading dominoes. Oh, we missed that deliverable, that deadline, this one. We don't know now which one is more important than the other. They're all urgent. They're all needing to have this at the same time. That's a problem, obviously. And you need to back up a little bit, look and see what's contributing to this, so that you can then make a decision and understanding. And this is where somebody like myself can come in and help look like a doctor, diagnose, and then give you some suggestions, ways that we can correct it, and that provide some long-term solutions. Now, these are not, sometimes we can come in quickly and quick fixes, but oftentimes this has become a way of life, if you will, in an unhealthy way. And so you then start to blame other people as a business owner later. Well, hey, they just got to work harder. They got to figure this out. And there may be some truth to that. I'm not going to say it's not entirely accurate. However, we want to look at what we're contributing as well, not look at others. We all have personal blind. The achiever trap. If I slow down, I'll fall behind. There's no delegation system. In fact, one of the tools I use, I have a whole delegation matrix, which if you're interested and you want to see that, I'm happy to share that tool with you. Just message me, davidstewart@yourbusiness.com, or message me, or may leave a comment on any one of these platforms in which you're listening to the podcast. I'm happy to share that tool with you. I'm all about equipping you here on this podcast. I can't solve all your problems on the podcast, but I can provide you some insights and understanding. Hopefully you can take that and apply it. And if you need more, well, I'm here, and I have helping both businesses and individuals So whatever the capacity looks like, whatever that relationship needs to be, I'm here as an advocate for you. But we can get stuck in this trap of, oh, I can't slow down. And we oftentimes as leaders can exhaust our production capability by never all even investing in ourselves. We're not getting the reps. We're not getting the knowledge, insights that we need to adjust, be able to tweak. You've heard that saying, work smarter, not harder. There's truth to that. How can we do that better? I just had a gentleman on my podcast the other day on my Business Roundtable podcast, which I encourage you to take a listen to. That's where I have guests come on. And we were talking about cost optimization and ways that we can help run the company better. Well, you have a third party or somebody else come in there and look at some things and see how you're doing things, where you're spending your money. They can help recalibrate, rebalance if you're in the investing portfolio, right? Things get out of whack. We need to reprioritize, rebalance that, so that way we can help equip ourselves to increase our capability. I personally was exhausted at one point. I was running a big project here in Southern California, multi-million-dollar project. I was burnt out. I was like, I can't do more. And so I had to come up with solutions. And it wasn't just me. I was talking with my other colleagues. In this case, I was teamed up with a number of companies. And we had to come up with some solutions to say, hey, we are burning out ourselves. We're burning out, in this case, some field leads and other biologists in this case. We're like, this is not sustainable. Nobody wants to do it for a time, but it's just, so we had to create systems, a work plan. We had to break it down. We had to justify our costs to the our ultimate client in this case about why we felt that it had to be a joint effort. So it's not like one person feels like they're losing. How do we win together? And so when we look at this, I want to encourage you to look and see, are we investing properly in rest, renewal, so that we can improve our performance? I did an episode I encourage you to go back to. I talked about the 5 gears, great book, how we move between life and transition, planning and doing deep work, day-to-day tasks, social connections, rejuvenation, and so forth. And it is a art. It's something learned, how we go and move. We naturally show up kind of in one gear more than another, and which is okay. We have to know how to move between all of them so that we're not burning out, not losing the war. We can lose a battle here and there, but we want to be able to win the war in the long. And so, there's a lie of this hustle culture. The more effort, the more success. Now, I'm not saying effort is unnecessary. It's absolutely necessary. But we want to do the right thing, the smart thing. We want to do the thing that is most effective and impactful. We can do a lot of things. We can be very busy. That just doesn't mean, just because we're hustling doesn't mean actually productive. And oftentimes we have to stop some things so that we can actually start doing some things that are actually important. I use a framework of what do I need to stop doing, what do I need to sustain doing, what do I need to start doing. Speaking from one that takes on probably more than I should at times, I will encourage you to stop, to pause. That means you can always add something back later, but it is powerful to take something out of the equation and then see how things are going. And then you can adjust and see, like, you know what, maybe I can add that back in. It's not an all or nothing scenario here, but I want you to look at that and see, if the answer isn't pushing harder, how do I do it by building capacity? And this is one of the ways you can do it by the podcast, just renewing your mind, considering the possibilities of what can be, talking with others, whether it's in your organization or a consultant like me, and ask yourself, what beliefs keeping you stuck in production? What is that? I was talking to a coach today who was questioning me on I like to do production myself. I like to be in that mode, but I need to be working on the business at the time as I am in the business. In fact, I probably need more on than I am in. Well, that means that would allow me greater capacity if I'm doing that, planning and preparing what that looks like. There's great resources out there. uh, essentialism, or the one thing, or deep work philosophy, for example, that you can do this. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is another great book. But we can start to look and see, like, how are we thinking? In that 7 Habits book, there's a whole idea of a paradigm shift. And that helps you seeing things one way. And then, hey, I see this differently. There's this African proverb that I don't know where it came from. One I just really held to me. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. That really resonates to me as a connector voice, one but I've lived it firsthand. When I have linked up others, you're intentional, not just linking up just to link up, but to be intentional. We'll go further together than we will just trying to push it on our own. And oftentimes we try to do that, try to push it on our own, whether it's because it's in us ourselves or because we've been told, just get it done. Just get it done. And how many of us have done that? Feel frustrated, isolated, alone, disconnected, really not feeling like you're living. I don't want that. I want you to be in a place where you're feeling fulfilled, you have peace, you have purpose, presence. One of the tools I use is called the Peace Index Assessment. Find out where you're at in your life. Where are you in your business, in your relationships, in your body? What is being sacrificed in the name of production? Because we all have to give trade-offs. And is it worth it? Is it worth the trade-off? So I would encourage you to look at that. You can, as Stephen Covey says, you can't sharpen the saw. That's the 7 Habits. When you're always cutting. We're always cutting. There's a great story about a gentleman, cutting down trees, and I'll paraphrase this a little bit. He was talking to this man, and they were going to race, or how they could do this. And he said, okay, I'm just going to keep cutting, and the other man would stop and he would sharpen his saw. Well, the other man just kept cutting. Well, eventually, even though the man was stopping and pausing and sharpening the saw, he eventually was able to cut down more trees than the other man, given the total time that they allotted, because he had sharpened a saw that allowed him to actually cut quicker when he did cut. While the other guy just was like pushing on. So think about this. There's another, how we're thinking about it. There's another great video. There's a couple of them you guys can look online, where you have two individuals, and they have a row of bottles or cans lined out, and the goal is to get them into a box. So pick them up and get them in the box. And if you watch this video, it's fascinating. One person starts where the bottles are closest, cans are closest to the box, and starts putting them in. They're going very quickly. You see them filling up that box very quickly. Other person does the complete opposite activity and goes to the very end of the row, so it's much further to go to get the can or bottle and put it in the box. Who do you think wins at the end of that? It's the second man. It's the woman that actually started at the end, which took more effort initially to go there. It's counterintuitive. Now, the goal was still the same. The goal was to get this done, but one man did it a different way than the other, and it made all the difference, and therefore their capacity by making that one adjustment. Think about that. Think how powerful that is. That's what I want to leave you here. Podcast every time is like, how can we think about these things? How can we show them up, especially when we live in our true voices? You guys hear me talk about the 5 voices regularly because it's so impactful. And I do the 5 voices assessment to understand, how do you show up well your primary voice? You can be more impactful. You're going to increase your capacity. If you try to do a different voice, it's not your natural one, it's going to be more challenging. Your capacity is going to be limited. So remember, this idea of a capacity matrix. Do I have the right people in the right role? Look at people. Do I have the right people in the right role? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe they were at one point. Maybe they need to be adjusted. Are my processes clean, clear, repeatable? So people, processes, and purpose. Are we aligned on the work that matters? This is important. This will make a huge difference in your bottom line, your quality of life. And that's why I want to help you here on this podcast. I focus specifically on people, getting the right people in the right place, helping adjust and work with people. Some HR professionals today talking about that on the Business Roundtable. And then, of course, we want to know that we're living our true purpose. Margin isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Have the margin, create that space. I want you to be wise. Taking the intelligence that you're learning and applying it is wise. So, where are you running hot? I like to say your body, being, balance, business. Where in those domains are you not? You're overdoing it. You're like, what's one area where you've been chasing production without considering ability? You want to improve your capacity. I have resources that I'm happy to share with you. Of course, we can get on a clarity call to have let me meet you. I'd love to meet you and see where I can help you as an individual or as a business owner, whatever the case might be. It's not about just, trying to do more. It's trying to do the right thing. Efficiency really is doing. Effectiveness is doing the right things and preserving the capacity to do them. Stephen Covey. And so another great author that I like is James Clear. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of what are your systems. And so every leader is going to hit the ceiling at some point. The question is, are you willing to re-engineer them? I don't want to see you. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you become a leader that is most impactful. And when you do the legacy, people are going to say, this person greatly impacted influence, lasting, meaningful, and I didn't feel left burned out. I want to make sure that you're a leader that works the benefit for yourself, by being so that you take care of yourself. You are blessed. You're blessed others. Gifts, talents, and ability. I am so grateful for you guys to be here on the podcast once again. I'm grateful for sharing it. I'm grateful for you leaving a review, and if you haven't, please do, because that'll help me reach more people. Subscribe, follow along, whatever the platform might be for you. I have this on YouTube and videos. If you want to come see me or see my other videos out there, it would be great to have. But I'm grateful for you each and every one. Become that. Until our next episode, be well, take care, and watch after yourself, brothers. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Take care.